What is your outlook on the quarterback situation going into the offseason, and how do you think it plays out at the moment?
Well, the quarterback situation heading into the offseason is pretty simple. You got one guy under contract that can throw the ball when you hit the field and after the draft. It's Trey Lance. That's it. They don't have anybody else. It's Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo hitting the road. I don't expect to see Josh Johnson back. It'll be Trey Lance, and we'll see whatever happens with Brock Purdy. That's the situation. Now, I will say this: Trey Lance fans, people who are very high on Trey Lance, the ones that are, you can see them, it's easy to spot on Twitter, are the most, I think they're the softest group of people that I've ever witnessed. They're the guy that they support is going to be the guy. He's the only guy that's going to be there. And they act like poor Trey. He's never gotten a chance. Poor Trey. They haven't treated him right. I saw one guy saying that, the Friars are going to rue the fact that they didn't start Trey Lance from day one. Give me a break. They gave Trey Lance an opportunity to start in 2021. They gave him an opportunity to beat out Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't do it. That's why he wasn't the starting quarterback. He got injured in his first start. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Don't know exactly when that happened, but even when that happened, they were starting to think that they might want to roll into Trey Lance, but he got injured, so you couldn't do it. And so you stuck with Garoppolo, and by that point, at the end of the season, although he played well against Houston, you rolled back to Garoppolo for the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And, this season, though, this was Trey Lance's year. 2022 was to be Trey Lance's season. Mm-hmm. It was his season to develop. It was his season to struggle through the early part of the year. It was his it is what it is. The people that feel like he's gotten the short end of the stick, hey, watch the guy play. There's a lot of people that say you haven't seen enough of Trey Lance to know what he does. You saw a lot of him in training camp this year because you were there.
Right.
And I think between you and myself, I've seen him play far more than 4 games. I've seen him throw the ball probably enough to play a season's worth of games between the 2021 training camp and this year's training camp. And the reason the 49ers are asking him to run the ball as much as they are, it isn't because they don't know what they're doing. It's because they do know what they're doing, and they've seen how he plays. And they are trying to play to the things that he does well so that he can eventually be better. But he hasn't shown it yet, which is why they run him so much.
And while it's a tough take, like I said earlier this stream, why was the game plan the way the game plan was? I said it myself. I'm one of the supporters of Trey Lance because I believe in the traits that he had when I scouted him as out of NDSU, and when I've watched him, I'm a believer in what his talent can be. But I told you, he's a raw player. He's a player who's going to learn as experience comes. Now, when you talk about the harping on experience part, yeah, it's unfortunate because obviously he's really been through. He suffered a really coincidental finger injury when throwing the football in a preseason game. He suffered a knee injury when he first started, potentially because he ran the ball too much. However, you may see it, whatever it is. And then when he was healthy, he had a good game in Houston, in the second half especially. Then this year, the ACL, when he got the opportunity, the ACL. It's really unfortunate what's happened. And at the moment, how I'm going to view this Trey Lance situation is, look, right now, I tweeted out this week, he appears to be quarterback 1 going into the year. Why? Going into the offseason. Why? He's the only healthy guy that can throw the football. We don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be there in training camp. We don't know what Brock Purdy is going to do. We don't have the backup quarterback. We don't know what's going to be the backup quarterback. Come April, come OTAs, or whenever it is, he's the only guy right now on the roster that can move his arm to throw the football. So Trey Lance, here's how I see it. Like I said, I'm a believer, and that's why I think this offseason is going to be very intriguing. Trey Lance is going to have every opportunity to show that he can compete for the starting job. He's going to get all the reps, all the starting reps from the beginning of OTAs until training camp. He's going to get every single rep as the starter. The backup, whoever it is going to push him, but he should get every rep as a starter for there. And then come training camp time, if Purdy is ready to go, you're going to see them to exchange reps likely. If Trey Lance can prove at that point that he can be the guy, they're going to give him the number one reps because he's been in the offenses. He's been through the install this entire offseason. One quote stuck out to me from Kyle Shanahan. He talked about the quarterback competition. He says nobody knows what's going to happen, but he said, I think that stuff's going to settle out by training camp. Why? Because Trey Lance is going to get the opportunity while Purdy's hurt. If he can figure it out, then you have a good quarterback competition. If he struggles in that time, then you still have a good quarterback competition, but the outlook of how that quarterback competition goes is changed. That's my view on Trey Lance going into 2023. Right now, I think he's QB1 going into the offseason because he's the only guy that can throw the football. We'll see how that goes going forward.
Yeah, and that's really it. And he's QB1. I don't really get where all the poor Trey stuff is coming from, I guess is where I'm going. I mean, the guy is the only healthy quarterback on the roster. Well, he's not really healthy yet, but he's going to be the only healthy quarterback on the roster. Right. When they get there. And so if he's good enough, he's going to start. And if he plays well, we're going to see him play well. And if he plays like garbage, he's going to play like garbage, and we'll be able to see it. It's going to play out. I don't know the defensive. I'm going to say this. You can put together, if you want to make Trey Lance look good and you want to say, there's people that say Trey Lance can't do this, he can't do that. If you want to go through and just pick out all the positive plays from his film, you can make. Here's what I'll tell you. If I wanted to make Josh Johnson look good, I could go through the game on Sunday and pick out about 5 or 6 plays that would make you think that he's a good NFL quarterback, because I can show you the completions that he's throwing. I can show you certain things that he's doing that are positive. You do the same thing with Trey Lance. The difference is that's just a part of the game. That's not the full game. So yeah, it's easy to pick out a play here and there to try to make your point, but you got to look at the full picture. Do I think Trey Lance can be a good quarterback? Yeah. Trey Lance, if he's going to be a good quarterback, is going to be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. I mean, and he could very well see the exact same development, right? Hurts struggled a bit in his first year as a starter. Second year with the receiver in A.J. Brown, that's elite receiver that he was lacking. He's now blossomed into an MVP candidate, right? Trey Lance, he's one step ahead. He already has the receivers in Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey now. McCaffrey being that key piece at the end that was the offensive MVP for me this year. He has the pieces. The number one thing for me for Trey Lance is, can he get the reps? And how does he play through the reps? Because the one thing Trey Lance needs to do, he needs to play. I don't care if it's the first string or second string, or if it's OTA's training camp. He needs to play. He needs to throw the football, because he hasn't been throwing the football on a consistent basis for the last 3 years. And that's the big part. There's so many questions, so many different narratives, because we haven't seen him play. And that's why I'm saying he controls his own narrative at the moment. If he plays well, if he shows the 49ers coaching staff and everybody that he can do what he needs to do in OTAs and training camp, in OTAs and minicamp, he's going to be the guy that they look to, because he's the guy who's been in the install come training camp. Brock Purdy should still get his fair share. He's going to still get his reps, because at least if he's healthy. That's the big other question. At least if he's healthy. But he's going to get his share. But Trey Lance right now, he controls it. If he can show what 49er coaches have wanted him to show the past 3 years, he's going to be looked at in a different place than if he struggles in that portion of time.